When I joined Frito-Lay in the early 90s, the leader at the time was Roger Enrico. And Roger had been a successful executive with Pepsi for a number of years in the beverage business. And he came to Frito at a time that Frito was struggling. They had been successful at the bottom line, but they were losing market share. And in a consumer products company, you lose market share, it's only a matter of time before you're irrelevant. And so when Roger came in, I watched as he quickly analyzed the complexity of this organization. They were trying to maximize profit, and they were trying to maximize expenses, and they were trying to balance this, and it just, people couldn't react to it. So he came in and he basically said, we're going to do two things. We're going to take back the streets, and we're going to make quality a reality. And I'm going to empower the whole organization to do those two things. So how did that translate? When I'd go out into the plants and I watched what was in our processing plants where they make potato chips, what used to be a very technically complex operation with, quality inspectors and, managers of quality inspectors and operators and managers of operators, and, nobody owned that chip when it came off the line. And immediately after this Make Quality Reality, everyone in the organization was given the authority that they could push that button that stopped the Frito line from producing potato chips if they thought the product wasn't right. And the operators on the line would share in the quality evaluations of the products that they were producing. And they had a fairly, sophisticated way of doing it, but they did it on their own products. As far as I know, nobody stopped the line, but they knew they had the power to do it. So they were proud of the products that came out of there. And then on Take Back the Streets, the salespeople, they had reports and reports on reports, and at the end of the day, all they were doing was filling out paperwork, and they had these new computers, and they didn't know how to operate them. And Roger said, hey, if you're not gaining market share, if our customers aren't buying a product, then you're not doing your job. So whatever you have to do, your job is to sell. And it just unleashed the power of these salespeople. And it was just fun to watch. And so by being able to watch that happen, it sort of redefined for me how you take a complex organization and you just make it real to the people. Make quality reality, take back the streets, and the bean counters can figure out how to count it up. And from that turnaround time until the end of the 90s, the company had tremendous growth. In fact, we took market share from the mid-30s to the 60s, because that transition was happening just as I was coming in the company. So Roger stepped out, I stepped in, and when I took over the company, I didn't know the consumer product business at all, because I'd come from the restaurant side of the business. But what I did realize right away is it was like seeing thoroughbreds at the starting line of a race. They were ready to go. All they needed to know was what am I supposed to do? And they were far better than they even thought they were. So I remember shortly after I got there, we set a goal of 10, 20, 60. It was 10% in sales growth, 20% in profit growth, and 60% market share. And at that time, we were 35% market share. And I remember when we introduced that in Palm Springs in June of 1993, there were some senior executives who had been in the company, good people. And within a week, several of them resigned, because they just said, this is impossible, this guy's crazy, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. But the reality is we had this high-powered organization that was truly focused, and we had a competitive environment that was very much open to that kind of competition. And we, in fact, surpassed 60%. We did get over 10% sales growth for several years in a row, and we far surpassed the 20% profit. So we actually did it. But it started by my predecessor focusing on taking the complexity out of the business and focusing the whole organization on the two important principles of the business.